licensed clinical social worker, trauma expert, and author of Stolen Childhoods, Thriving After Abuse, Shari Botwin. Shari, it's always so great to see you. You know, Mr. Prada was a really well-known content creator on TikTok. I think for many people, including myself, it was shocking to see him as a person of interest in a murder, let alone now a suspect in the murder. What's been your reaction to this case?
I think mostly shock and disbelief and what was going on? What happened? I have like a list of questions running through my mind. It's a really sad story.
And, you know, Mr. Prada, as his username was, he was pretty funny on TikTok, but what he's accused of doing is pretty horrendous. You know, stealing the therapist's car, dropping the victim off on the side of the road, fleeing to another state, and just let alone this whole murder aspect of it all. What are your thoughts given that he was just this kind of, in a way, upbeat personality, let alone that flip side now where he's accused of this dark and horrific thing?
I think what happens with social media, especially someone like him who's an influencer on TikTok constantly making these videos, you get a perspective, you get one side of a person, but you don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. You don't know what's going on inside of him. One of the things I was thinking about was he using TikTok as a place to create a part of his personality that he thrived on, whether it was connecting with other people, getting the attention, or even just if he's having a day where he's feeling really angry or really happy or really upset, is he going on social media to share that particular part of him? But then behind the scenes, what's going on inside of him? And was he using TikTok as a coping mechanism or a way to feel like he has some control or that people will like him? It's just so hard to say because I've never met him, but I know that he did talk some about what was going on in his mind, and at one point he alluded to being bipolar. So when I hear that, I think, you know, again, I don't know him, but it sounds like he had some awareness that he was really struggling.
What are your thoughts about the pressure that a lot of TikTok content creators face? Because again, he's only 20 years old, but he had a following of, I think, more than 4 million followers. It's a lot of people kind of following your day-to-day life. But what are your thoughts on how maybe the pressure of social media may have played a part in kind of him maybe snapping in a way, allegedly?
So we don't know what his followers are saying. If you go back and read all the comments, I'm sure we would find comments that might have been mean or critical. And I think too, once you're an influencer, the expectation is that you be making these videos, you be on visible to your followers probably multiple times a day. And I think that alone, especially for someone who's young and someone who may be struggling with some type of mental health issue, what it does is it exacerbates all of the insecurities that someone struggles with. And I think for some people, the pressure can really get them to a point where they become, whether it's homicidal, suicidal. Again, we're not hearing that side of him because he wasn't sharing any of that. One of the hopes I have as this case unfolds is I want to find out more about him. I want to know more about what he was thinking. Of course, I want to know what his relationship was with this particular therapist. So I think right now there's a lot of questions that we don't have the answers to. But once you become an influencer and once your name is out there, there are a lot of expectations that you can put on yourself or that others will put on you. And it can be dangerous for some people.
Many of his viewers and followers have speculated he might have had mental health issues that he was conveying on the internet. You see him on video after he shaved his head. Do you think he was conveying to his audience that may have not known at the time that he was experiencing a mental health crisis?
That was my first reaction when I watched the video with him having shaved his head. He does allude to being bipolar. So one of the things I'm thinking is this a way for him to signal to people that he needs help? Is this the part of him that doesn't feel like people are listening? Does anybody behind the scenes in his family, his close friends, whoever he's connected to, Do they know what's really going on inside of him? Those are some of the questions that I have. And again, one of the things I know, because I work with a lot of young adults who use social media, who post on social media, people use social media to get the word out. So for some people, it can be very helpful. If you're a survivor of something like sexual assault and you're trying to get support, you go on social media and you find out there's so many other hashtag Me Too's. But in this situation, I feel like he was alluding to the fact that there might have been something wrong, but we don't really know what was wrong, and we don't know what he was thinking and what he was trying to get out of having this public platform.
And there's a term that you see a lot on TikTok. It's called crash out or crashing out. While sometimes it's used kind of in a funny way, many online have thought that Mr. Prada was crashing out. Given your expertise, what do you kind of make of that?
I mean, the term itself is a bit concerning. It makes me think of when clients come in and they say, I'm hitting rock bottom, or I can't do this anymore. It almost, what it makes me think is that's when someone's at the breaking point. So whether they're at the breaking point of feeling extremely angry, or they haven't slept in days, or if in fact they are struggling with bipolar, crash out could be hitting rock bottom and feeling homicidal, suicidal. But it also can mean for someone who has bipolar that they're at the height of the mania phase. And it's a word that I think when people use it, we really have to be careful how we interpret that and how we respond. So if he's going on social media and describing feeling like that, or other people are saying that, to me, that's a warning sign. That's a red flag.
And what are your thoughts on the allegations that the therapist had also faced, where he was accused years ago of inappropriately touching a young boy? What are your thoughts, kind of given that aspect? Although the lawyer for the therapist has said that Mr. Prada had nothing to do with that or anything like that. He's not the alleged victim in that case. But what are your thoughts, given that added aspect of the allegations the therapist also faced previously?
I mean, I think we're going to find out. I think that those are allegations that are obviously very concerning. And like you said, that charge was dismissed, and we don't know anything really about that part of his story, but we will find out. People have to understand that when there are therapists, doctors, teachers, that doesn't mean that they are perfect, or that they too may not have something going on, whether they're struggling with a mental illness. So it's an interesting aspect of the story, and it's obviously, for me, one of the questions that I have. What was his relationship like with this person? Was he seeing him for therapy? What were the boundaries in that relationship? So I think what we're going to find out. It's interesting that that part of his past has come out, because it's going to leave people with a lot of questions.
And I think another kind of interesting aspect of this whole case is just how much the internet kind of played a role in what I believe to be kind of catching the suspect in this case. As soon as that persons of interest photo came out, people immediately started making that connection that this is Mr. Prada. What are your thoughts on kind of the aspects that a lot of his followers, a lot of people who have followed him throughout his career, kind of helped play a role in him getting apprehended by law enforcement?
I mean, again, I can only imagine what Mr. Prott is thinking, but once you go out there, once you become a public figure, everybody's going to know who you are, at least his followers. And the thing to keep in mind with social media is people have a love-hate relationship with influencers. There are some people that sound like they adored him, they found him to be entertaining, but then there were some people I was reading about who were not surprised at all when they heard about the allegations. And again, those are the people that if they see him, they will make a call. And that's the thing that you have to keep in mind. You're no longer going to be able to be, you're no longer going to remain private when you're being followed by 8 million people. And the 8 million people that follow him, they didn't all love him.
And again, it's just about 4 million people, still millions of viewers, still millions of followers. But just to clarify, just 4 million, a little more than 4 million, I should say.